Welcome to Lost Culture, your one-stop destination for everything pop culture. My name's Aston, and today we're going to do a review and a quick recap of Star Wars Rebels Season 1, Episode 2, Flight or Fight. So, in this episode, it's very centered on Ezra and Zeb. This episode, we see Chopper for a quick second. We see like the whole crew this episode, but like I said, this episode is really based on Zeb and Ezra. When the episode starts, we see that Zeb and Ezra is having a hard time getting along. They're fighting. We see when they're running around the building, we see Ezra stops again. He attempts to flirt with Sabine. Sabine isn't having it. She rolls her eyes. She's ignoring them. He asks her to be her inspiration, and she just plays him off like it's nothing. And that's when he kind of bumps in the Chopper. Chopper leads him to his room. He gets into it with Zeb. But that whole time, Chopper has taken out the screws to Ezra's bunk, which means when Ezra jumps on it, it lands on top of Zeb, which leads to them running through the Ghost. They run into the cargo hold. They knock over all the cargo, and they point and blame each other. And of course, Hera, being the mother figure she is for the Ghost crew, she walks in and she basically sends them on a bonding mission. She tells them to go grocery shopping, will go shopping for everything they need, and then at the end she tells them look for a Melu run. And you guys, if you guys know anything about the Star Wars universe, this isn't the first time we heard about a Melu run. It's actually the first time we've seen a Melu run is all the way back to Episode 2 when Anakin and Padme are on their little I forget what they're doing. They're hiding off on the little I forgot what it was, the little palace thing they were hiding at, and we see Anakin cut the fruit for Padme. That's actually a Melu run. So that's the first time we see a Melu run in the Star Wars universe. This would be the second time. So a lot of stuff we see are drawbacks onto old things within the Star Wars universe. But besides that, if you look close to inside Zeb and Ezra's room, we see on the left-hand side there's a picture of the Millennium Falcon right next to the pinup poster of the girl. So, like I said, you look close. There's a lot of Easter eggs and things going on within this episode. It's like that every episode. There's always something that draws back to older aspects of the movies or the cartoon series. So you gotta keep your eyes open for things like that, or little not little peeps of knowledge about the fruit and things like that. It's just by watching that seasons or watching the episode and just being aware of everything that's going on. But back to actually what's going on in the episode. We see she sends them on a Melu run. They find all the items that they actually need on the list. The only thing they can't find on Melu run. And that's when Ezra runs into one of his old, not his old, but an old family friend, a friend of his parents. And he asks him for the Melu run. And he tells him, look, it's going to be hard to find those on our planet because they don't really grow on our planet. And if you do find them, it's going to cost you a lot to get them. And at that point, they end up bumping into a crate of them. And we find out, of course, they belong to the Empire. So this whole time, while they're walking down the street, Zeb and Ezra, or Ezra basically holding it over Zeb's head. Anytime Zeb asks him to do anything, look, this is how you do to me. This is I save your life. This is where we get another Easter egg when he says, in some cultures, when a man saves your life, you're basically their servant. That's basically going back to the Wookiees and the Wookiees with their life debts. Once you save a Wookiee, they basically have a life debt to you. They stick to you until you're dead. And if you die, they normally will protect your offspring. So you used to take the old canon or anything. Han, Chewbacca has a life debt to Han, and even though he's not with Han, he ends up getting sent with Leia. He's actually in the Thrawn series. We see he's willing to protect the twins because of his life debt to Han. But so it shows you it doesn't just stop with the parent; it can actually go down to their children also. But back to back to Rebels, we see that we see that throwback that Ezra throws out there, and they basically this whole episode we see that Ezra has been training in the. We don't really get to see him train in the Force. It's just highly like hinted at that he has been training in the Force. He's actually getting stronger with the Force. He's being able to connect to it a lot easier. We see at the beginning of the episode when he's sitting down at the table, he's playing with his bow. He's trying to like force lift it, and Chopper pulls a prank on him. And even besides that, when they're trying to get the Melu run from the Empire, we see he's actually shaking the lid. If he was a little bit, I don't want to say more focused, but he was a little bit more in tune with the Force, he may have really been. I think he would have did it if it wasn't for the Stormtrooper coming to hit the lid down. And we see Zeb start laughing at him, teasing him about him not being able to actually lift it with the Force. So that leads to more like mishaps between those two. Ezra does his little sneaky thing. He throws a rock. He low crawls. He ends on top of the transport ship with the Melu runs. And that's where everything goes downhill this episode. We know Zeb and Ezra out here on like basically a bonding mission. And at this point, they're running from the Empire. This is where, like I said, like last episode, I don't remember. I think last episode or the one before, I said that Zeb is real cat-like, whereas Wookiees are more like real dog-like. Zeb is more cat-like. So we see he's running. He picks Ezra up. He's climbing up walls. When Zeb actually falls, we see he lands on his feet. He doesn't land on his back and he falls backwards from the wall. He actually lands on his feet, so that like shows you that he's really more like the Sons are more cat-like than like they're actually really cat-like their characteristics. So besides that, just a little thing that I peeped that I noticed. We see they get separated. Ezra running across the towers. We see Zeb actually gets cornered by a TIE fighter and some stormtroopers. I don't understand how the stormtroopers missed him. Like he was literally right in front of their face, and they could not land a shot on him. And then he managed to pry open a TIE fighter and throw out the actual pilot. So we've seen Zeb do all that. We see Zeb is actually not really used to flying a TIE fighter, but he's used to actually flying. So we see it takes him a second just to get adapted to the controls. Kind of like Poe inside episode 7. When you watch episode 7, you see Poe. It took him a second just to get oriented to the new like control system of a TIE fighter. So Zeb went through like the same similar circumstances. And while through all this, we see Ezra's running across the top of the buildings, and we see this actual strength of Ezra's little I don't know what to call it, his light slingshot is not that strong. Like when it hits the stormtroopers, it basically just hits them and it bounces off. Like it doesn't stun them or anything, but it does make them like twitch. Like it does make them bounce back a little bit. It slows them down a little bit, but it doesn't really affect them, and they just keep going. And at this moment, that's just when Zeb comes in. Like we know, like Zeb and Ezra are real childish, like and immature. So as Ezra's running for his life, Zeb's basically on side of him, just riding with him. Like, you want me to save you? You have to promise that we're even. Like after you save my life, this is basically me saving your life from the Empire. They do that. They get away, and somehow they manage to get the no, that might have been later on. It was later on. So they're flying. And this is where we throw it back to the Spark of Rebellion. We see the Empire actually rolled up on Ezra, like the friend of Ezra's family. And he wants they willing to buy it earlier, but when he turned them down, it was like the final time they were actually asking him. And this is where they actually forced him out of his farm. They attacked his home. They destroyed it. They arrested him. So this is like basically a throwback to where, if you remember in the Spark of Rebellion, they're talking about Tarkin Town, how the Empire came in, they're buying all the property and forcing people out. This is like a scene of them actually doing that. So I like how something like slightly they mentioned in like a little prequel movie that it tied back in. So I'm pretty sure they're gonna be doing this all season. There's gonna be little tie-ins going on within the episode, like within like the seasons. There's gonna be small things that are mentioned, and we're just gonna tie back into a feature episode. So I like how they're doing that as of right now. And with that being said, we see when Ezra we see once Ezra sees the convoy rolling around, they Ezra jumps down. He frees his family friend. He tells them to jump. They're kind of hesitant at first. They're like, they're moving too fast. It's going to hurt. Ezra tells them either you're going to be a prisoner or you're going to just jump. And we see all the prisoners jump at that second. It alerts all the Empire inside the convoy. So they send the stormtroopers on top. Ezra's fighting them. We see he's jumping from like ship to ship, but from truck to truck. And while he's doing that, we see he actually stops at one point and grabs like a handful of Melu runs instead of just trying to defeat the stormtroopers, which is kind of like in his personality. He's always distracted. Like it seems like when he's doing that, we see they basically shoot him out of his hands, so he loses them all. And in that instant, Zeb come through, like they're fighting again. Zeb come through. One of the stormtroopers asks him, like, "Are you really doing all this for some fruit?" He says no, yes, like he stumbles with his word, and like kinda. And that's when Zeb basically comes in, like he saves them. He shoots all the stormtroopers with the TIE fighter, and we see him actually pick up Ezra. But in all the commotion, they managed to get the cockpit, like the windshield, all messy, grimy, so they can't really see through it. And this is where we can really get to see the strength of Ezra's power. Well, not really his strength, but his connection to the Force. We see they're flying blind, but the whole time Ezra's getting hints and like hints here and hints there that we need to fly higher. We need to dodge this mountain. And when they do that, Zeb's starting to take his Force powers a lot more serious. He's starting to Ezra was actually a lot stronger, a lot more skilled than I give him credit for. So we see Zeb starting to straighten up. We see Zeb starting to respect his Force will, like the power of his Force a lot more. And with that being said, like they actually call home and talk to Hera and Kanan, like, and they're talking about like we see another throwback too in this episode is we see like the little checker chess like monster fighting. If you remember, that's in episode 4. Episode 4. There's a lot of tiebacks to episode 4 in this episode. We see them talking to Zeb. Zeb tells him this is not the tie you're looking for. Obviously, this is a throwback to where Obi-Wan tells the stormtroopers these are not the droids you're looking for. And so, like I said, they're definitely doing a tie back to everything within the Star Wars galaxy, letting everybody know this is part of the galaxy. We're going to tie back. We're going to have little hints. If you're a true Star Wars fan, you're going to get little hints. You're going to get little nuggets here and there just about the past. Or not about the past. It's about Star Wars in general. It can be future things, which we've seen like further on. But it's just little nuggets here and there that tie the whole Star Wars universe together. And I really like that. But back to it, like we see once Kanan hears the TIE fighter noise in the background, he gets upset, like, what are you guys doing? What do you guys have going on over there that you guys are messing with TIE fighters? He tells them, they basically confess that we stole a TIE fighter through all the commotion. He tells them to meet him at point B. And basically he tells them to disable the tracking and everything on the actual TIE fighter. So they do all that, and we find out like Zeb and Ezra really don't know where they're going. So by the end of the episode, they crash, they make it back, and we see they lost all the supplies, but they made the Melu run, and so she's just really happy that she sees Zeb and Ezra. Well, Hera's actually really happy that she sees that Zeb and Ezra are actually bonding. They're actually friends. When Zeb crashed the ship, we see Ezra actually like stick up for him, like, "Oh, we did it on purpose. Don't worry, we did it on purpose." So I like how they're doing that. Like I said, it's like a really great episode. I like how they're making the bonding between Ezra and Zeb happen. And what do we see once we do that? When they get back into the room, we see Sabine has actually been painting. She actually did take Ezra as her motivation, and we see she paints when the bid actually falls on Zeb, and she calls them idiots basically. And the show ends basically on the same spot that it started at. Zeb and Ezra are chasing, but this time Zeb and Ezra are chasing Chopper. They bump and knock all the supplies over, and they blame it on each other again. And that was really the episode. So, like I said, I really enjoyed the episode. I like how they're tying everything back from the Star Wars universe into this episode. And just like, so my ups for this episode, what I really liked about this episode was we get to see the development of Ezra. Even though it's kind of quick, like I said, last episode we didn't get to see him as strong as he is in the Force in this episode. Well, not really as strong, well, as in tune as he is in this episode. And for like my Force move of the week, for the episode, it would have to go to Zeb. We see Zeb is actually swooping in, he's saving, he's learning how to fly, a new ship on the fly, and everything. And he's just really like, he's right there the whole time to help Ezra, while Ezra's up to, well, both of them are no good, but in his tight conditions. So, thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment. If you think I missed something or you had a different opinion on things, as always, follow us on Instagram at lost_culture. Follow me on Instagram at Saint_Aston. And as always, stay lost.